and I do it once a month, and it doesn't take me very long, but it does pay for the au pair. My name is Martin Rowson. I am a political cartoonist and writer. My work appears regularly in The Guardian, The Daily Mirror and The Morning Star. I know exactly when I started drawing political cartoons and when I wanted to be a political cartoonist. It was when I was 10 years old, and I picked up my sister's school history textbook, which was 1780 to 1950, and it was illustrated throughout with work by Hogarth, Gilray, Cruikshank, Tenniel, Lowe, and the rest of them. And I just saw this stuff and thought it was the most wonderful stuff I'd ever seen in my life, and immediately went and found some old steel nibs in my father's desk to see if I could draw like Gilray etched. So Gilray and Hogarth have been described by David Lowe as the grandfather and the father of political cartoons, and both of them are a constant inspiration to me. The cartoons I currently do for the Daily Mirror tend to be different from the ones I do for the Guardian, which tend to be different from the ones I do for the Morning Star. It's a question of how much you can get away with. I'm always trying to push out the frontiers to see what I can get away with. But having said that, I don't believe in total free expression, because it doesn't exist. We constantly moderate what we're saying in order to achieve whatever effect we want to achieve with what we've said. So I come from the left. I am drawing to a political agenda, my own political agenda, and my agenda is basically to, not in the pompous journalistic phrase, tell truth to power, but to tell power it's got a really stupid nose and it should go and itself, which is what I'm saying. I was establishing a name as a political cartoonist. I was doing stuff for magazines. They liked the first cartoon. They said, "Oh, Steve's ill, can you cover for the rest of the week?" By which time my feet were under the table, and I've been there ever since. Briefly as I can, I used to try to draw like Stedman. I don't do that anymore. I try to make it. It's all in colour. So I paint it, and it's sort of meant to be a bit grotesque, but not that grotesque. It's meant to actually be sort of rather friendly and cuddly. People don't think of it like that, but that's how I think of it. It's the whole form is impossible without caricature, because you have to have, as I said, you have to have recognisable public figures who are transformed through caricature into being puppets who are manipulated by the cartoonist. And it is, I mean, it's basically a kind of sympathetic magic. It's like shamanism, that we take control of them by redrawing them, recreating them, shape-shifting them. I used to love drawing Blair, but now, without question, I love drawing George Osborne. In 2010, about October 2010, my wife told me I wasn't allowed to even think about George Osborne anymore because my blood pressure was worrying her. And yet I love drawing him. I love drawing the fact that his mouth is constantly moving round to the side of his face, that he clearly has no bones in his head, that it's just gristle and fat, which is why he goes around with hard hats on the time, so his head flopping over. You work out that almost everybody can be defined by three characters, or characteristics, and so you can reduce them down to three characteristics, like Blair, Mad Eye, big ears, teeth, and so on. And in Miliband's case, there's just too much. Where do you start? Where do you finish? Is it the eyebrows? Is it the eyes? Is it the bags under the eyes? Is it the flat nose, which is flat on one plane and it's big on the other plane? I mean, is it the teeth? Is it the hair? I think I've got him now. No. It was an horrific shock, and then the cavalcade moves on. I think that obviously what it means is there are 17 people who are dead who wouldn't be otherwise. What it means is that there are some truly great cartoonists who have been killed before their time by barbarians and idiots. There are two significant changes which I've seen. One is the movement into colour. I used to work for Today newspaper, which you may not even know about as a minor footnote in the history of British journalism, but it was the first full colour paper, and they wanted everything in colour all the time, and they hadn't actually cemented down their presses properly, so the presses used to shake like washing machines, so they never got the colour quite right. It used to sort of ghost over itself. The other thing is, of course, the growth of the internet, which is far more globally significant, and it's also transformed my job, because previously I would file cartoons and I would hear nothing. I would get no feedback whatsoever. Occasionally I would get letters passed on to me by the newspaper, usually they didn't bother, saying I like this or I didn't like this. Occasionally people would try and buy the original. Now I have this sort of constant barrage of comments. A decade ago I would get literally thousands of emails through concerted email campaigns, on one occasion from Melanie Phillips, because she didn't like a cartoon I'd done about Israel. Most of which said, off you, vaguely. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'll be dead. I mean, I've always subscribed to Groucho Marx's line. Somebody said, do it for posterity. Why should I? What's posterity ever done for me? It doesn't matter. I mean, the only way in which it matters will be if I have enough of a reputation for my original artwork to be worth something for my children to sell. That's all.